This video will show you how to replace the coolant on a Chevy Cruze. Before we get started, remember I'm an IT guy, not a mechanic, so do your own homework, but this process worked for me. Jack up the front driver's side of the car, and make sure you use jack stands. Then you're going to pop open the hood. After that, we're going to go underneath the car to remove the plastic panel. There are 4 of these plugs. What you do is you get this tool and you put it around the middle pin, and then you pop that one loose, and then pop out the big plug. There are 4 of these under here, and I found it was a lot easier using this tool than just a plain screwdriver, and I put the link for that in the description. Once you've removed those, then the back of the panel should move pretty freely, and it's time to remove the T20 Torx screws. There's a total of 8 of them on this car, and I have an extra picture here so that way you can see where they are to make it a little bit easier for you. Don't forget to remove the ones in the corners in this panel. You will pull it out by pulling it towards the back of the car, not directly down. That will reveal the petcock valve, which is on the passenger side of the rear of the radiator. You're going to put a 5/16 hose on it, about 2 feet, and that makes it so you can direct the flow rather than going all over your garage floor. You can direct it right into a bucket. Open up the coolant reservoir cap. This will let the air back into the system and make it easier to drain. Underneath the car, open up the petcock valve to release the coolant. Then let it drain until it stops. Once it does, you're going to close the petcock valve to seal it back up. Using this method, I got about 1 gallon of coolant out, which is a little bit more than if you hadn't jacked up the driver's side of the car. The next step is to lower the car and then remove the bleeder valve. It's on the top of the radiator on the passenger side. This will let the air back out so you can get more coolant in. So we only got about 1 gallon of the coolant, although it has 6 quarts, and I want to get more of it out. If you want to skip this step, you could just go ahead and put 50-50 coolant in it right now, but I'm going to fill it up with distilled water and then drain it again. Once coolant comes out of the bleeder valve, go ahead and seal that back up. Then we're going to get in the car and bring it up to operating temperature to get any air out of the system. Start it up, and then change the display so that way it shows you what the coolant temperature is. Turn the heater on to hot and low. That'll help get the rest of the air out of the system. Just don't turn it too high or the car will never warm up. While it's warming up, watch the coolant level and top it off anytime that you need to. Once the temperature gets to about 200 degrees, you're good to go. I realize the thermostat opens at 220, but that's above the boiling point, and I don't want to do that without the cap on. So I replaced the cap and took it for a drive to get the coolant all mixed up. Then I let it sit for an hour or so that way the coolant would cool off, so I wouldn't burn myself and I also wouldn't put cold coolant in a hot engine. Drain the coolant again using the same process as before, and when it stops, close it up and remove the hose. Then completely remove the bleeder valve. And we're going to fill it up with 2.5 quarts of full strength coolant, not the 50-50. That's how much we need to get the 50-50 mix in the radiator when we're done. Then top off the rest with the distilled water. Once coolant comes out of the bleeder valve, go ahead and seal it back up. Then we're going to start it up and check for leaks. You want to make sure nothing's leaking because you don't want to be stuck on the side of the road. Then bring it up to full operating temperature and shut it off. Make sure the coolant reservoir is topped off and then close the lid. You're going to want to check this over the next couple of weeks because as the air gets out, the coolant level may drop and it may need some more. Then go underneath the car and replace the plastic panel. You're going to want to make sure you get the clips in the right place. It's a little bit of a trick. Those have to slide on a portion of the car. Then the only thing left to do is to close the lid and admire your work. You saved yourself a clean $100.